The primary purpose of Uniquely Human, the podcast, is to educate and inform. The views expressed during all episodes are solely those of the individuals involved and do not constitute educational or medical advice. Listeners should consult with professionals familiar with each individual or family for specific guidance.
Uniquely Human, the podcast, is produced by Elevated Studio. Music is graciously provided by Matt Savage of Savage Records.
Hi, I'm Dr. Barry Prezant, clinical scholar, researcher, and consultant on autism and neurodiversity, and a Brooklyn boy raised in the big city.
And I'm Dave. I'm none of those things, and I grew up on a farm in Illinois. But being on the spectrum myself, I have plenty of personal insight to lend.
And this is Uniquely Human, the podcast, a show that illuminates and celebrates autism and neurodiversity. Today on Uniquely Human, the podcast, I'm actually having a little bit of a reunion with a wonderful person with varied experiences and really has her thumb on the pulse of what's going on in the autism and neurodiversity world. And that is SARA Bradford. So SARA, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Barry. It's an honor. Like I said, I'm fangirling over here a little bit with you and Dave. I've of course, been following for so long. I read your book many years ago and reached out to you and interviewed you on my show. And so, like you said, it's a wonderful reunion. And I'm so happy to be here and share what's happened. So for both of us, like you said, it's been a journey of so many things.
Yes, and just to share a bit with our listeners, as our listeners know, we usually focus on specific topics or specific experiences that are unique to our guests, but in this case, SARA has such a broad range of contacts and knowledge, and shared just a few moments ago, she's done 600 interviews between her summits and her podcast. So we figured let's kind of paint the picture with a broader brush and get an idea of what's going on in the field. Dave, does that sound like a good idea?
I think it's a fantastic idea. I mean,
Great.
I was just saying earlier, I don't do 600 of anything except for I've eaten 600 boxes of Thin Mint cookies probably in the last 2 years. But that's between me and the Girl Scouts. That's
yeah, right.
issue.
Thank goodness. What a supporter you are.
That's right. I try to do it for the kids. It's not
for the kids.
Well, that explains why you're so thin. I mean, it's,
right. And minty.
Yeah.
Keep away from those fat mints. That's the thin mints.
Funny.
So,
That's right. I want the thin ones. It keeps me lean.
right. So let's tell our listeners a little bit more about SARA. SARA is an autistic woman, a mother, and brings a unique perspective to her role as the CEO of S.J. Childs, LLC, which is an autism consulting business. Her personal experiences, as well as her role as a member of the Autism Council of Utah, have deeply influenced her mission to support families with autistic members. SARA is also an administrator for the Autism Advocates Support Group on Facebook, engages audiences as a global autism speaker, and hosts a podcast, The S.J. Child Show. Her commitment to her community is evident in her involvement in local university and police training programs, corporate autism training programs, international summits, and more. SARA also is a children's books author, published under the pen name S.J. Childs, and she has written books on subjects as diverse as autism, dyslexia, physical differences, anxiety, and more. And her books help children understand themselves, support their peers, and encourage love and inclusion in every situation. Boy, I mean, that's so important, reaching out to the kids. So, in your words now, let's share a little bit, if you would, about your personal and professional journey that's taken you to the place you are at right now.
Oh, thank you so much, both of you. And it has been such a special journey that I've been able to share now with the world in so many ways. And it's building every day, it's building into something new. Our son was diagnosed at 16 months old, very early. And at that time, I knew nothing. I had never heard the word autism. It was 2010. It was pretty unknown, in media, and especially trying to get information. So I soon realized that a lot of the support that I needed was going to have to be created in ways that I saw it might have been missing from the community. I started early on as a parent liaison for our children's elementary school. The principal asked me to help the other parents connect because they saw that I was always out there chatting with the moms and trying to make all of these friends. And she saw something that really sparked what now is who I am today. It's incredible. And we drove past that same elementary school just the other day and remembered that we had bought a camcorder back in 2012 or something. And my husband had the idea, hey, I want you to start interviewing these parents. I didn't do that then. It would take another 10 years for me to get a podcast going. But the intention, the initiative was always there. And the importance of just banding this community together has never been more important than it is now. And we're seeing, luckily, that it is, I like to say, we're in kind of the perfect era of autism where now it's heard and known and in the mind of pretty much every human. And it's been spoken about so much. I'm not going to say that it's good or bad. I'm just saying that the word autism is now so more prevalent in the world than it ever has been. So we have to take the opportunity to really form the understanding now for people. So yeah, that's kind of where it all started, was with this darling child.
Yeah.
In the corporate lingo, they would refer to that as owning the narrative, which is, okay, now we've got people's attention. And unfortunately, the first thing people hear is often the thing that gets crystallized. And so you want to be the loudest voice in the room when you're actually talking factually.
And what you described, Sarah, is a perfect description of the sense of, okay, well, we've done pretty okay when it comes to awareness. And now people are saying awareness is not enough, that we have to go beyond awareness. And especially our friend, Dr. Stephen Shore, has said it's time for action, not just awareness.
Action, 100% action. I couldn't agree more. And I've had several wonderful conversations with Stephen, and I love his advocacy and all that he stands for as well. And I couldn't agree more that we really have the opportunity to share what it all means with us as individuals, and how much more impactful that is for families when they can anecdotally learn from experiences, and they're not just a textbook shared from a college book that those aren't important, but the real experiences, the raw, vulnerable share from those who live every day, is so much value to experiences for teachers, for parents, for providers. And I think that there's a real opportunity for us today, right? Just as we're doing, to share and shape that understanding that autism looks different in every single person, just like, there's just no amounts of, comparisons you can make that are it's just so different. And if we don't embrace all of the different ideas, we can't see that cohesive picture. We just see this tunnel, this kind of, blinders view of what one person's experience may be. And that can be harmful for a lot of families that try to overlap those things.
Exactly. And what you're describing here is, yes, Stephen Shore's right. Action. It's time for action. I would also put a qualifier on that, neuro affirming action, because
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of bad folks out there with terrible ideas who also are trying to mobilize and take action and denying the lived experience of non-speakers, for instance.
Mm.
So it's neuro affirming action that needs to be taken, and that's really what you're all about.
Yeah.
And once again, Dave, you're reading my mind. I
Perfect.
wanted to put in bright neon lights of what Sarah said about lived experience, because some of the greatest areas of misinformation that's out there about autism come from people who think they're experts but do not immerse themselves in the community of lived experience. We're running into that with the non-speakers. It happens so many times. So, yes, and that's probably the greatest force in changing perceptions and giving us a more accurate picture of the autistic experience, especially for those of, to speak for myself, those of us who are neurotypical. How can we deny the lived experience of people?
The amount of neurocognizance that's happening that we can't possibly see in someone who is non-speaking, and just the power of the stories that have come out. I don't know if you've interviewed or had a conversation with Betsy Hicks Russ. She has the show or the channel Betsy on the Go, and her son Joey, who is in his 30s, just barely became a speller. And for many, many years, there was a different story that she told, a different way that she shared her experiences. And now that he has been communicating this, she's just basically shed all of her self and what she used to, her lived experience was, and is now shifting into this new perspective that once was a person who no one thought any, there was no communication occurring or no individual thought, if you will, to then find out and hear like poetic sentences that are so moving and so inspiring. Oh my gosh, it's incredible. And so I think that these kind of experiences and opportunities to see what we've been missing for so long, really, we're going to have the chance to really step back and say, okay, what kind of accommodations do we make now? We have to change these systems. I think when we start to see how much damage, I guess, that the systems that are in place are doing, there's nothing that can be done but just take them down and reconstruct. So it's
I just had the opportunity to hear a piece of Hari Srinivasan's talk at the United Nations on World Autism Awareness Day. And he talks about having to reconstruct the architecture of systems. Now that we know so much more about what autistic people benefit from, what they're asking for, but it's right on the point that you just made. Yeah, absolutely.
Tricky thing about systems is that once they're in place, it's almost like old software. It's almost easier to burn it down and start from scratch than it is to make systemic repairs and refinements and enhancements. But the reality is that's where we're at. You can't just terminate every old system that isn't serving us. So it's a lot of work.
And a lot of unlearning for people, and that's important.
Yeah.
So Sarah, what do you see, given all the people you speak to, and so many with lived experiences, including yourself, what do you see as some of the major themes, especially that families are concerned about? First, we'll talk about what families bring up and what families talk about.
I think a really big thing families are concerned with are definitely schools. We have to that's a big, huge red in all red letters, IEPs, understanding of the support that you rely on a school to give you. And these parents that don't understand that the most of the people haven't been trained in any of these areas, and they don't have proper trainings in place, and there's not enough people, there's not enough aides, there's not enough taught people to be able to, be effective in helping in so many millions of children. And it's so hard when you see families, even my neighbors, I'm just gonna say they have little ones under 6, and thank goodness I'm their neighbor, because she has someone so insightful to be able to bring her things, any kind of issues or problems, because she's got 4, and now 3 out of the 4 have a diagnosis, and she's struggling, and she's not understanding how to take the next step. And I think that's a problem that every parent runs into at one point or another, is not knowing how to find resources. I'm doing something so incredible. I think you're going to be so excited to hear about this. I'm bringing together all of I posted about a networking event for autism providers in Utah. And I said, if you're an autism provider in Utah, I'd love to bring you all together. Let's have a get together, get to know one another, not go to a fair where everybody's at their own tables and you don't ever talk to each other. Let's get in the same room. Let's meet each other. Let's have relationships with one another. Let's be able to say to family A, I know this amazing SLP that can help you. I just met them at this thing, and now I have these great resources to share. I think there's going to bring the community closer than it ever has been before, in kind of this chamber way, feel to it. We've just set up our very first meetup for next month, and I just feel overwhelmed with how much resources and connections these people will be able to make with one another, because that is so important. We don't need to compete. These companies don't need to compete. They need to band together. There's more and more families and children being diagnosed, as we all know. Every 2 years, the numbers are changing. Here we are at 1 in 31. We know that threshold is probably very unprecise, as far as there's a lot of undiagnosed individuals still out there, adults, children, women, for example. So it's really tricky. It's how do parents know where to go when there's not a clear, like a web, just one website I can go to. Not that there should be, but there just isn't. And there's so much information. Isn't that something that's hard too? Sometimes there's too much.
And then what to trust.
Yes. Yeah. And what you're describing, Sarah, sounds more like a retreat where people can get together, because conferences, everybody puts their expert hat on and they get up there and they, kind of toss out the truth for everybody to believe. I can tell you from my experience, and this isn't so much with professionals, but we're about to approach in May, our 28th annual parent retreat, where people are open to saying, I'm having problems with this, or I don't understand this, where everybody can learn together from the resources that are available there. But it's rare for that to happen with professionals at a conference. Yeah. It happened, I'll try to say this quickly, but I attended a medical conference in the Netherlands on emergency care in emergency departments and in children's hospitals. And all of these professionals, all these healthcare professionals were there to say, we're not doing a good job. What else can we do? What else can we learn about to better serve kids in situations that are anxiety arousing? And it was so refreshing to hear these very, very high level, mostly medical professionals saying, we have a lot to learn. We don't know this. We don't know this. We don't know this. Very different, I find, in this country. Everybody gets up and says, I'm telling you what you should know. So,
Yep, isn't that the truth? And one of my favorite quotes that I made myself was a little bit of knowledge turns fear into understanding.
Yes.
And that's, as with the children's books, we had mentioned those. I wrote children's books in the very beginning because I really had this understanding that the children in my my own children's classrooms clearly did not understand who and how they operated. And I
Hmm.
thought, what a better way than to help them understand how to support my kiddos than get these books into their little faces in school, and there, do I
Mhm.
have one near me? I think so. They're bright and colorful and they, whoops, here we go. This one is about Down syndrome, actually.
Hmm.
And this one talks about like how the cells, how the chromosomes are actually different. And it really gives not just an understanding of how a person is different, but why it happened in the body that way so that they could be more supportive,
Hmm.
of those individuals that they might come across in the world. And, you know,
No,
um,
that's great because it always feels empty to me when the best sort of guidance that we're giving to, especially to young people, is, well, just be accepting of everybody and everybody's different. It's like that breaks down immediately as soon as you leave the classroom and it's not enforced and you're on the playground or you're in the hallway. So just actually educating is fantastic.
And I think it's great to offer. I've done a few for the Utah After School program, a few wonderful seminars with them where I introduced skill training for the teachers to provide their classrooms, such as ways to understand sensory overloads or
Hmm.
sensory specific speaking or learning or hearing, and you can do different types of activities that can show the children this is what this person experiences, how they speak, how they hear, how they might see, how they might write or even walk and feel the way they feel, and the amount of understanding and compassion that these children can then have for their peers around them. It's just life changing. They take that with them at such an early age, and you just uh, implore them with the tools they need to keep fighting the good fight throughout their
Hmm.
time. So we hope we do the best.
And I think with you writing children's books, you're also putting your finger right on another issue that I find so many families are concerned about. And that is how do we help all children have a greater understanding so that they're more compassionate, and they're more willing to kind of develop friendships with kids who sometimes might behave different or might be a little bit more difficult to understand because of communication issues.
Yeah.
Um, just, so many parents say, I just want my child to have friends,
Yeah.
you know.
And what's great too? This isn't just for the kids who, like, for instance, Jack, the dog, the book.
Sarah's
And it
book.
would Sarah's book, yes. This wouldn't just be for the children who weren't born with Downs. It can be for the child himself or herself to
Yeah.
say like, oh, that's how my cells are different. Got it. It's very empowering.
Well, you want to know
Hmm.
something? It's so exciting just about this book in general is that there is a gentleman here that works at my local grocery store that actually was a cousin to um another boy in my son's class. So we had kind of a connection with their family. And when I saw that he had been working at Smith's, he and I started talking a lot, and I said, "Would you like me to get you copies of this book?" And he said, "Oh, I'd love to." Well, he himself has Down syndrome and goes to the elementary school with Jack the dog and he reads it to the students.
Awesome.
I couldn't be more. I mean, it's just that's exactly the kind of message that I would hope I could bring as a gift into the world. So it's so
Excellent.
special. Yeah. And of course, doing the books, I started going on to podcasts. And then someone, I think maybe even Shannon Penrod from Autism Live said, Sarah, you need to start your own podcast. And I said, okay, it's done. And then that was born. And of course, here we are 350 episodes later. I can't believe I'm even. Wow.
Similar story on this end. Somebody said to me, Barry, you do a lot of presentations. You need to have a podcast. And I said, Dave Finch, where are you?
And here we are.
And here we are. What do you see as, when we say we're in a different place now than we were when you started your podcast, and even when we started our podcast, not about the same time, 4 or 5 years ago. But what do you see as the most significant changes that have happened that we have to continue to build upon?
Oh, I would say ABA is a really big conversation that's happening in the autism community, and just support therapies in general, and making sure that they are neuroaffirming, and maybe resetting kind of boundaries around those services that aren't, and redefining what that means. I think that, oh, that's a tricky one, isn't it? So many things. I mean, just the simple things like the puzzle piece and the infinity symbol. Those things were like a big, huge conversation and division almost. And it's so hard to see those things happen. But at the same time, it's so important to understand and be a part of that. So when it does evolve and grow, you've understood the process and can share, with people. I don't think that necessarily a symbol hurts or helps anyone, but I do give understanding, grace, and complete dignity to those who feel that the companies that represented those didn't do them service. And I understand that. So I think that it has been an interesting thing to see. Obviously, we all know about the how autism became so prevalent in news and in our political scope and scheme, and those things. I absolutely don't want to be in any way political about anything, but I think that just understanding, that really was where the word autism was introduced to more of society than ever before. And I'm thankful, and I wish that I could have been the spokesperson.
Yes.
So that, maybe things could have been gentler and more dignified and more human based and human centered.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
really cared for the whole society and the whole community.
Yeah, rather than autism is this evil being who's kidnapping your children and destroying their lives, and I think in general, whether it comes to symbols or whether it comes to ABA, I think people are, really looking with good intentions, with a critical eye, as to what many people thought were the truths. And I wish a lot of our discussions would be a little bit more civil, but it's wonderful that in many cases it's come from the community of people with lived experience to raise their finger and say, oh, but, we used to think this was the gold standard of therapy, or we used to think this. And now there are so many discussions going on. Absolutely. And of course, what's going on online has really added the fuel to those discussions.
And, I think this is perfect segue, because having the virtual summits, it has opened my eyes, because, some of them have been international, where I've invited international advocates to come. And I've had advocates from, I want to say, 27 countries. That's a lot of different stories to hear. And there was so much to learn. And there is still yet so much to be taught in the world, because there's still a lot of misunderstanding, still a lot of horrible ideas of what autism is. And I think that by inviting these guests and these people from around the world to share these stories, it opens our eyes and it gives us just that little bit more of a glimpse of, okay, what else needs to be done? Where do we need to go? How do we create these programs to help these third world countries, or these, outlier rural communities that don't have access? And I think that that is my biggest kind of change in my own self, in my own sight, if you will. This is so strange to say, was from actually a blind guest who came on and was able to express to me the lack of access that she had throughout her life. And she wasn't autistic. It wasn't about that. It was just about being, vision impaired. But it really, like, for some reason, opened my mind up to this lack of access and how far reaching it is. And so I'm building something so incredible right now. And do you want me to share it now or whatever?
Sure.
Yeah,
it's
we
best,
want the exclusive scoop.
Exactly. Because it is still in development, but I have shared it publicly and everything, the name, and so it's great. But it's called Streamable, and it is a for disability streaming site that, everything is built after the fact. Ramps are put in after the fact. Bars are put in after the fact. The screen readers and the, captions, they're all put in after the fact. And there's not a streaming service or system that is in place before and made for. And I just had this amazing summer that I spent in my garden, call it meditation, whatever, the flowers talking to me. And I just had this beautiful idea to build this site for all access that will offer an ASL portion, all captions, an audio portion. It has dyslexia-friendly fonts. It has access to remove pictures for those with face blindness or those that have image density issues. I've just done so much research on what kind of access do everyone need. What is this? And so it's in the works. It's called Streamable Live. And I'm just putting my heart and soul into this and all my husband's money. Bless his heart.
That's all right. What else is he going to do with it? That's amazing.
Exactly, right? Buy more flowers for me, I guess.
Yeah. That's really to start with it is so and not retrofit something based on one-off, good for you. And that's something that we actually discuss. Barry and I discuss all the time. We have Barry pays a small team of folks that kind of make this all work behind the scenes and everything. And we talk about that as well. It's like, how can we make the content as accessible as possible to all? And we just I won't speak for Barry, but I will definitely say I am not an expert in it. And so I know I know what makes it easier for me to read something, to listen to something, to access the information. But I don't look much farther than my own nose. And so to have a platform that's already put that thought into it is fantastic.
And as they say, knowledge is power, but you have to have access to that knowledge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. Equitable access.
I want it to be for everyone. And, I want literally like medical people to use it for training, because I'll think of just all of the communities that are missing any kind of educational training or anything because they have that portion of neurodiversity that keeps them, not getting. Yeah, it's just horrible, isn't it, to think? So yeah, that's my next mission somehow. Plus I have teenagers. That's really what my life revolves around right now.
I mean, you're so forward thinking. As a matter of fact, you anticipated something else I wanted to toss on the table for you to chat about, and that is the changes that you hope for in the future. And you're already thinking about that. I mean, I could just see you out in the garden and having these flashes of insight as to, what really needs to be done that really impacts the broadest community in the most powerful way.
Oh, I'm so excited. I know it's, like I said, it's so much larger than me, than the world, than all of us. And it has the possibility and capability to help millions, billions of people. So let's just fingers crossed and put it out there so our intentions will be heard.
Yes, yeah. And so let me kind of sum up a little bit by going back to what you began to talk about at the beginning of our discussion. And that a big part of what you do in your work is creating community, is helping people, first of all, to be seen and heard, but then bringing many people together to be seen and heard, which is kind of the next step up. Yeah. And so congratulations. I mean, it's wonderful how many people you reach, and it's so important.
Oh, and it's really amazing. Dave, you had mentioned about how can we make our content more accessible? And the last couple of events that I held, summits, I kind of had that same thought. How can I make this more accessible? Like, what do I need to do to bring in the people who don't know, who haven't seen what the summit can bring to them? And I streamed for free on all of my channels, on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, everything, the last two summits. And on the weekend of the last summit, there were nearly 90,000 views over like a Saturday. And I was used to getting 250 or something very, oh man, my mind just was so blown that day that I thought, are you kidding me? Wow, this is what bringing access really means. There wasn't a ticket price gatekeeping fee for them, there, and I'm not saying that isn't important, because that's how companies make this or make money and stay stable. But I just am so blessed and honored that I had the opportunity to provide such an impactful educational day. And it was a wonderful event. I think I have my little postcard here. We did, I did panels where it was a panel discussion each day. And it, my favorite ones of the day were a research panel and AI and innovation. Oh my goodness. Those are the things that are really going to change in the future, is the way that we work and the way that we help people understand the power of AI. And I always like to make a joke with my husband, because I'm the only one with ChatGPT in the house. And so I always say, you shouldn't be afraid of AI. You should be afraid of the people who know how to use it.
Yeah. That's First of all, that's very funny. I like that. I was told a couple of years ago, like, AI won't replace your job. It's the person who uses AI who will replace it. And I'm like, that's cold comfort. Thanks for that. But no, the equitable access, and you're right, there does need to be at times, or in many cases, this sort of monetization in order to pay the people who pull this together, because you want to work with people who are making it happen. But on the rare occasion when you can say, hey, free access, it's wonderful to see that you'll get 90,000 people taking advantage. It just shows that there's this appetite, and maybe what's happening is people are placing a bet against the paid thing, saying like, I've put down $4.99 before, and I didn't get $499 worth of information out of that quote unquote summit. And so I think these sorts of opportunities, when they come, I think it's great when people can take advantage of them.
At the same time, when you talk about those 90,000 people, you're both demonstrating the need by so many people coming in, but you're also meeting the need. And opens your eyes wide to how much people are hungry for information and diverse opinions and diverse perspectives. So, yeah.
And authenticity. Authenticity is something that I think is now, I don't, just in the last few weeks, I've been seeing a lot of messages in my inbox and my email saying social media is dead. Authenticity content is that's what is going to be like alive. That's what people want. They don't want the fake TikTok dance. They want someone saying, I have this and this is what I do to fix it, kind of a thing. Or this is how I grow my vegetables. And they really want real actionable steps. They want to know, okay, this was a great conversation, but what do I take and how does it fit into my life and what resonates with me? That's what they want. They want to find something that resonates and makes them feel like
That's right.
it, is also for them.
Well, the more, yeah. And in any social media platform, I don't even need to say this, but like the more that type of content is out there for people to engage with, the more the algorithm rewards that engagement, the more of it you see, and the less of the big, oh, I eat June bugs and that cured my autism, and you should too, and everybody should, and legislate this, and I'm going to be I'm going to be Surgeon General of the United States now because of it. That authenticity gets rewarded if it's available.
Yeah,
and hopefully,
and being able to, have enough knowledge to say what's the takeaway for me, or no, this is not real. I'm gonna just kind of delete it or not go there at all. Yeah.
Yeah. Social media platforms make sure that they do not label something as, hey, you're about to consume quackery. In fact, often that's what they serve up first is the nonsense.
Have a little quackery meter. There you go. Sarah, thank you so much. It's been great. And make sure you send us all the links so we could put it up on the web page.
Thank you so much. And like I said, this has been such a long time coming and an honor. And it's wonderful. I'd love to have another conversation with you guys in the future when, more things have changed and we can come back and say, oh my goodness, now look where we're at.
That's right.
The system is gone and now we're rebuilding.
So true. And you could share more of your innovative thoughts to action, which is
love that. Well,
great.
Thank you guys so much. So hopefully this was good action for Autism Action Month.
That's right.
I like it.
That's right. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Bye-bye.